はい、HataQです。アウターワールド、続きをやっていきましょう。じゃあ何？どの道モナークに行かないとしょうがないのかな？そんな感じになったね。OK、じゃあモナーク行きましょう。どっちだ？何？警告危険だって。ってことはこっちから行った方がいいね。
We are now in orbit above Stellar Bay, Captain. No blockade is a match for my piloting skills.
さてと、しょうがない。じゃあ行きますか。ここが到着しましたけど、どうでしょう。コンピューターいきなりあるね。触ってみようか。何も関係ないですか。さすがにここでハッキングポイントとか手に入んないよね。どうなんだろう。なんか上に登ったらある？なんかこういうのは何もなさそうだけどね。うわー、そっか、この下って通れねえのか。めんどくさ。意外にめんどくさ。なんかあるような感じもしねえな。ちょっとあそこにあった。盗みの扱いになってんな。人いる？でも人なんて全然見ないよね。大丈夫じゃね？ OK。で、荷物どんなもん？ 39。大丈夫だね。さあ、じゃあ行こうか。下はでも広さこんなもんか。当然誰かいる。
Don't think I've seen you around. That means you must be new to Stellar Bay. You are new here, right? I knew it. See, I made what you'd call a logical deduction. You must have seen those UDL gunships on your way in. There's only 3 of them these days. Still, they tend to scare folk off. You may not have heard, you being new, but Stellar Bay hardly ever gets off-world traffic, us being cut off by the board and all. Which means I never get to do this part, but I've been practicing, so here goes. On behalf of Monarch Stellar Industries, welcome to Stellar Bay, home of the freshest sal tuna in Halcyon. Please state your name for the records. Swell. There's one for the logs. I'm even gonna give you your own entry code. I'm not supposed to do that. It's against procedure, but Mr. Sanjar isn't so strict about the rules here. Besides, I got a lot of empty entries to fill. Oh, that'll just make Mr. Sanjar's day if you tell him. The board makes up lots of nasty stories about raptidons and cannibals and whatnot. But that's all outside our walls. Mostly. We don't get ship traffic in town. Only off-worlders who do make it out here are sublight. They got a base in Fallbrook. And thank the stars for them, or we would have run out of Rizzo's Purple Berry Crunch years ago. Oh, sure. It makes Stellar Bay sound like a rotten place, but it's not so bad. Get a good breeze going, and the sulfur smell mostly covers up the fishy smell.
The nostalgic stench of home. Can't say I miss the day-to-day of living in Edgewater.
Anyway, Mr. Sanjar's got lots to say on that subject. Kinda goes over my head, though.
まあでも町になってるってことはだよ。
Mr. Sanjar will be mighty pleased to meet you. If you see him over at headquarters, maybe you could tell him I did a bang-up job of welcoming you? Oh, and if you're headed that way, maybe you could do me a favor.
サブクエ？
I got this Rizzo's Rangers Tossball poster coming in on the next sublight shipment, signed by the Black Hole himself. Only I haven't heard anything in a while. You think you could check with Celia to see if it's come in?
そしたら何？これを聞けばいいのかな？
Celia works for Mr. Sanjar in the MSI building next to the bar. She's always there, so you can't miss her.
OK。じゃあこれで、一応、これだから街なんだよね。先じゃあ見て回らないわけにはいかないか。ただ、盗めないだろうね。 ここは人がいないから多分盗んじゃっても大丈夫だとは思うけど、基本的には盗めばこらってくんでしょ。この裏行けないんだ。入れる場所、ああここなんかいろいろあるね。おお46とかあるじゃない。あ、じゃあねちょっとねここで買い物しましょう。はい、 OK。装備の方ちょっと強化しました。ちょっとっていうか結構だな。おおかっこいい。違う、これは盗めない。そうか、やばいな、癖でやっちゃいそうだ。あとはこの辺はモブだな、みんなな、どう見ても。
What are the chances of all the times and places we could have been born?
Yeah.
We're here, light years from Earth, going about our lives.
ここもこんな感じでしょ。
What are you
モブ
talking
ばっ
about?
かでしょ。
Sorry, I thought you were quoting. It's a wonderful directorate.
だとこっちの方か。この辺だどうだろう。
We don't get
あ
many
ーダメか。
outsiders. Got any
この辺
news
も
from
なさそうだな。この辺もなさそうだね。どう？
Watch your step if you venture. You don't
話さないよね。そりゃそうだよね。
Rap mask
あ、
and
どう
cake.
だろう。
Hello,
いけそう。
stranger. Can I interest you in raptidon tongue? Or maybe some canid toenails? You look like a woman who's looking for some mostly fresh animal parts.
うん、ショップの
Oh,
人
good.
か。なんかいい
Celia
のある
hasn't
か
come
な。
by in a few days, so I haven't sold much.
犬の爪とかいらねえな。いらねえよ、こんな。
You look like a woman who's look. I don't
この
know.
辺は
Celia usually buys whatever I have, and Mr. Pickett seemed real interested. So I thought maybe I was onto something.
サブ
She
クエ
works
ぐ
for
らいは発注しそう
Sanjar
だ
at
けどな。
MSI. She's also Stellar Bay's biggest collector of canid incisors. And I should know, because she buys them from me. He came to Stellar Bay years ago, just before the board cut us off. Ended up stuck here. He was always real interested in our monsters. Mantiqueens, especially. Sure, they're real big. Hard to miss them. Who wouldn't be? Now that just sounds like a fancy way to say boring people. Well, I could send you to the same place I sent Mr. Pickett. But I haven't seen him in a few weeks. To tell true, I'm starting to get a bit worried about him. Tell you what, I'll tell you where I sent Mr. Pickett if you promise to look for him. Help him out if he's got himself in trouble. Fair deal? All right then.
お
Leave
お、
town
やっ
through
ぱ
the
りサブ
southern
クエ
gate,
発注した
the one right
ね。
here, and head past the abandoned ruins. Last Mantiqueen I saw was in the wilds out that-a-ways. Could be Mr. Pickett still out there too.
まあこれ会話のルートにもよって発注が出たり出なかったりしそうな気はするんだよね。だからね、俺もね、取りこぼしもしてんじゃねえかなとちょっと思ってんだ。
Please, will someone help me?
いや、やりそ
Oh,
う、これも。
thank you for stopping. Everyone acts like nothing's wrong, like my little boy isn't at risk of being eaten by some vile creature. Please, you have to help me get my little Tucker back. He ran away and is going to get himself killed. Oh, I just know a raptidon is melting him with acid as we speak.
It's more dissolving than melting.
That is not helpful. Oh, I just knew you were a good person. I guess I
危ないな、
said
この
this
人
is
も。
the woman to save your little Tucky. And I was right. He ran out into the wilderness a few days ago. I warned him about the raptidons, mantisaurs, and marauders, the toxic sulfur pools, and poisonous plants, but he didn't listen. Please, won't you go and find my boy? Thank you. Oh, I know he'll be safe now that someone's able to fetch him home. You look for him in Amber Heights, you hear? It's down the road southwest of town. I'm sure he made it that far. I just know it. And if you find any of them iconoclasts indoctrinating my boy, you punch them in the mouths. Tell them what I think of them luring little boys away from their mamas. It's immoral.
まあまあ、これもサブクエだよね。ゴミ箱、これは盗んじゃうとまずい。ここにいる。これは外か。
Got any news from the rest of
外だ
Halcyon?
な。そしたらここも OK。サブクエ結 構受けてる？ 2 つぐらい受けた？この人もなんか発注しそう。おお、言うね。ああ、この人なんかサブクエっぽい。
Well, well. The only new folk I ever see in town are sublight runners from Fallbrook. But you don't look like one of Catherine's. What can I get you?
取
If you
引
don't
した
see
い。
it, I don't got it. Don't go asking for the special reserve.
なんかいいのあるかい？なんかこれといって、ああ、でも装備関係がもしかしたらありそうだな。22。22。うわー、ちょっとあれかな。今更って感じかな。1品ぐらい突き抜けたのないかい？ないね。こんな感じか。結構いいのつけちゃってるからそういうことになっちゃうよね。これでも
Do
何？
your
他
part
の
to support the
話
local.
はない？
What can I get you?
あ、そっか、ないね。この人は本当に純粋にお店だ。こっちが見たでしょ。まあこれも違うよな。なんかポツンといるような感じ。ああ、この人っぽい。飛び出してきたもん。
No! I just stepped in a dead man's blood. And I think one of the flies landed on my mouth. If you're going into the apartments, do not go into the lower one on the right. That's where the body is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go contemplate a hot shower.
それだけ？じゃあここになんかあるって感じかな。
We don't get many outsiders.
喋らねえな、このぐらいじゃ。こういうレベルじゃないよな。これでどうだろう？ぐるっと一周回ってきたわけじゃないか。ここ違うな。あ、これ北だもんね。じゃあいろんなところに廃墟があるってことだ。あ、なんだよ、作り似てんから騙された。これ向こうと同じだ。丘はこんなもんですか？これさっきのはそうだね。あの裏のところだもんね。じゃあもうぐるっとできたんじゃないですか？あそこの人はこれって話せてるか？
Got any news?
この辺関係ねえな。ああ、この街分かりづれえな。なんか同じような感じで違うパターンだね。ここも入れる。まだでもここの中央行ってねえな。この辺はまあ誰もいないから盗めそうな感じ。もらっちゃえ。ここも入れる。わ、入れる場所も結構多いな。この、おお、はしごがある。裏？ちょっと先登っとくか。これはなんだ？そこのあたりに飛べって感じか？飛び移る。もしかしてあの布の上とか走れる？こことか走れる？なんかここ降りられるな。おー、なんだ、ショットガンか？なんかちょっとあれだな。こんな感じ？わあ、なんかこれと言ってって感じだな。さあ、どうするかね。あそこに飛び乗れる感じはしねえんだ。これ布で向こうに渡るパターンだね。あっ何これってダミー？こういうことをするための仕掛け？ひで。OK です。じゃあね、まず街はだいたい話したので、今度順番に家の中入っていきましょうか。 これ全然人いないよね。まず弾が大量に補充できる。ここにこれが置いてあるのがすごく気になるね。もしかしてなんか機械をおかしくさせるとかそういうのはないなかった。深読みしすぎたね。そしたらこれをコンピューターとして扱えるわけじゃないから、ここは終了と。どういう風に回ろうか。こっちの壁沿いに、じゃあ逆回りしようか。で、まず一番外側の部分だけのところをやっていく。こういうの難しいんだよね、なかなかね。この辺も入れたりする？なんか入れるところ光っててもいいよな。自分で探すか、なんか機械がそうなってるかだけの違いで、なんかあんまり違いがないような気がするんだけどな。人間がやろうが、なんか機械でそれを教えてても、なんかあんまり面白さに差が出るわけじゃないから。で、ここはあれだよな。なんか変なのいて、うんぬんかんぬん言ってたところだろ。怖えな、ここ。なんかあるのかな。装備関係あるな。26、10、22、14。全然使い物にならん。このメニューも本当分かりづらいな。横に出ないで、なんかどっかにメニュー用のウィンドウの場所を用意しときゃいいのにな。こんなバカでかいのを重ねて動くタイプにするのあんまり良くないよね。
What a gruesome way to die.
Not much I can do for this guy.
なんでお前らが喋ってるのかびっくりしたよ。誰か人いんのかと思ったじゃねえか。なんかほんと余計なタイミングで変なトークすんだよね。君らの感想いらねえよって感じなんだよな。そこじゃねえだろっていうタイミングで喋るからさ。間が悪くて結構やりづらいんだよね。最初に音聞き取りたいんだけど。何かいるわけじゃないの？何かに襲われたっていう話じゃないんだ。やばい敵でもいるのかと思った。でもこれ死んでるんだよな、どう見ても。コンピューター。うん。まあ盗むものは回収できるけど、なんすか、2階ですか。あれでもここ人普通にいるじゃん。無視。いやでもここも人いるね。じゃあ下の人って寝てたの？
You startled me. Don't sneak up on a person like that, huh? You again! You've really got to stop doing that.
やけにビビってるな。経団層調べる。どういうことだろう。なんか溶けてうんぬんかんぬんって言ってさっきの女の人逃げてったんだけど、それはどういうことですか？じゃあこの人って生きてるのかな？いやここで見つかったのか。ネックレスとかでもいらねえか、根本的にこんなもん。どういうことだろう。全然理由がわかんねえな。まだ荷物大丈夫そうだね。 あとはここなんかでもマークとかついてんだよな。
Good day to you.
Whoa, by the stars, my poor heart. I just about pissed my jumpsuit.
Easy for you to say. You can hop into your spaceship and leave any time. This town is enough to try anyone's nerves. That was a real popular meal 10, 20 years back, before the board tucked tail and ran. These days, everybody's had a belly full of salt tuna. They all want borscht. And the mushrooms, well, not many venture out of town, what with the monsters hereabouts. I can whip one up for you, but it'll cost. Here's a menu.
なんだ、なんかでもろくでもねえものありそうだな。まあいいや、頼んでやるよ。
I got all the ingredients.
まずかったら撃つぞ。
Should only take about an hour in the oven. There we are.
なんかでも今クエスト入ったな。
Now, if you don't mind, I really need to take a leak.
そういうこと？キッチンに計量弾が置いてあるよ。すげえな。ちょっとトライしていいかい？やったな。OK、いただいたぜ。これ何？上行けって？わあ、上も部屋いっぱいある。ここはでもこんなもんかい？ここ開けるだけだよな。
They can't keep us out.
でもこんなもん？うん。一応何？入れるところにマークがついたのかな？なんかそんな感じだな。まあいいや。あとは入れる場所なんかこの奥もありますな。こういうのもらえるんだったらもらってく。後で売って金にする。例えば見てないからこれいける？いける？
Who wants to play an impromptu tossball match? No one?
このマークがついてるってことはこっち側が、入るな。近くまで行けばあれなのかな？扉が。これは話すね、完全に。
Greetings, and welcome to Monarch Stellar Industries, producers and purveyors of the finest salt tuna in Halcyon. What can I do for you today? Not at all. Mr. Nandi treats us all right and pays us well. I just spent most of my paycheck on Raptidon acid. Laws, no. Sometimes it's canid teeth, or mantis worm wings. Whatever Sebastian has in stock, really. So I can talk to him, of course. He doesn't get going about much else. Sort of the strong, silent type.
そういうことか。
Unfortunately, my apartment's kind of filling up with his stuff. And some of the neighbors are complaining about the smell. I couldn't. What if he says no?
なるほど。
Maybe
代わりに
I mean, I know it would still be bad, but it won't be quite as embarrassing if you ask. Oh, Mr. Nandi's doing that thing where he breathes through his nose real slowly. I'd better get back to work. He doesn't talk much, but he's got this quiet intensity, you know? Like there's stuff going on inside his head that you have no idea about. Plus, he's got great legs. It's hard to find a man who doesn't skimp on lower body exercises.
Good to have standards, I guess.
I know what I'm looking for. You think that's what I'm looking for? You're funny.
まあいいでしょう。
Sorry, sometimes I get carried away.
OK だ。
Well, new business turns up at last. Celia, didn't I tell you our new statistics-based advertising model would be a hit?
That you did, sir.
How can yield improvements of 26.7% not quicken the pulse? How can 32% cost savings not moisten the loins?
You've often posed these very questions.
Clear my schedule. This newcomer has a meeting with me. Celia, will you make a note of that for my self-review? Very generous.
Noted.
But not so generous I can't drive a good bargain. Now, who sent you? Rizzo's, perhaps? Or Auntie Cleo herself? Hiram? Why, he's probably still out at Devil's Peak. Not that he's had the courtesy to notify me, at any rate. But if you're here for him, I suppose that means you aren't here for Saltuna.
Nyoka could direct you best. Seek her out at the yacht club.
Celia, this is wretched. All our best efforts for naught. I had hoped that livening up our advertisements with enticing figures would draw the other corporations back to our bosom, but it seems we're back to the drawing board. Surviving alone isn't as easy as it looks. Thanks to the so-called hazard clause, Monarch has been cut off from the board's resources and protection for 10 years now. Now, we've kept ourselves in business by trading with individual corporations, but given the off-the-books nature of those transactions, such arrangements are precarious. Yes, freedom is a tempting ideal, but a rather costly paramour.
Exactly. Intellectualism fuels the train to mankind's future, but the tracks the train runs on are forged from practicality.
What?
Yes, it's as though the good vicar has plucked the very words from my brain.
Indeed. Mr. Nandi here has a rather ingenious plan to get MSI restored to the board.
On our terms, mind you.
Returning to the board is your only chance if you hope to survive here on Monarch. That doesn't mean it'll be easily achievable.
Indeed not. No worthwhile plan was ever simple. That's what I always say.
And if our advertising scheme hasn't borne fruit, then perhaps it's time we took matters into our own hands.
It's a two-pronged approach. The first part involves seeing Stellar Bay properly defended. With a Bolt 52 cartridge, of course. If you can get us what we need to rejoin the board, starting the Bolt 52, we'll be able to become one of the most productive and secure cities in Halcyon.
And you'll have a powerful ally on the board.
In the old arms building southwest of town, which used to be part of Stellar Bay before we had to move our walls in, these days it's overrun with marauders and raptidons. Saying what which way? That's just what it's called. It's supposed to stand for something, but I forget what. Oh, and while you're at it, there should be a terminal in the arms building with some dangerous information. Perhaps you could delete it so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. What can I do for you? I see. And was his delivery of the MSI authorized greeting up to snuff? Well, that's excellent. I'll see that your feedback makes it into his review. What else can I do for you?
まあでもこんなもんでしょ。いろいろ探せ見つけろ。いっぱい来たね。あとは端末アクセス。 まあここじゃ知れてるか。情報らしい情報なんか得れねえか。この人は話す気はしないだろう。話さないだろう。そうだね。情報だけ見ようか。こんなもんですか。さて、区切りも良さそうなんでね、今回はここまでということで、よかったらまた次回も見に来てください。チャンネル登録、そして、良ければいいねボタンの方もぜひよろしくお願いします。それじゃあ、また会おうぜ。